And if you really want to push it over there, just say, I'm going to start a band and I want to sell CDs, and that's the other option. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, I think I don't know if it's going to be digital media. I don't know if we'll use the same thing to call it social media. I think, there'll be different names for this stuff, but I think the communications business is very interesting, wherever you land up in the ecosystem.
The one thing I'd add on the social aspect, there are a lot of brands who are clearly very scared about what happens in terms of the communications about their brands and would rather not participate because of that. I really do believe, and I'm stealing this from somebody else and repackaging it slightly, but I like the concept that I heard a week or two ago about just somebody who was really articulate about saying, you know what, all these conversations have happened for decades.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's a text record.
Yep. Exactly.
And that allows you to track it, to react to it, to see how fast it aggregates. In the past, negative comments about a brand might accumulate so slowly that the brand is sort of can't even react in time to figure out it had a problem until it's too late to react. This written record, even when it's negative, gives you information to react. So brands that aren't participating are missing the point. And I think, unfortunately, what will happen is the brands that don't participate will become the record of why you have to, because we'll have 2 or 3 really bad experiences that brands don't listen and suffer big consequences over the coming years.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at, if you look at, say, packaged good companies, behemoth companies that spend millions of dollars in research on, sales data, which is good, but then they'll run all sorts of, research junkets where they're looking at panels of 15, 20 people to try and get their opinion on how they feel about specific products, and they've got millions of people that are having a conversation about the product, but they don't want to listen to that because it could potentially be bad. So I think that's a key insight too as to why.
Totally. I mean, it's like real data, not nonsense market research in a completely fake environment.
Yep.
And when you talk about somebody on the internet, you're kind of implicitly talking at them, because anybody that's even vaguely internet savvy knows how to monitor their name as a keyword, and it's kind of like it's rude as companies to ignore your customers when they're saying you suck. It's like, it's just rude. Like, it's not, it's not good customer service, and it's kind of what brands are supposed to do is go, oh, I'm sorry, I should fix your problems because I sold your product and it doesn't work that well, and I'm trying to make it better.
And I think there are a lot of brands who sort of look at that and say, oh, it's not projectable. My research is projectable. It projects to statistically significant. It projects to the entire community. But it's not actionable. Whereas, a million really ticked off people are telling you what they want you to do. Yeah. So listen to the people who are actively engaged. To me, the actionable is much more important than the projectable.
And to that Jeff Jarvis Del Hell point, people believe other people more than they believe us because they know we're lying, basically. Lying is maybe putting it strongly. We're heavily biased to give the best possible opinion about what our companies do, obviously, because we're representing them and selling them. There's no sense of impartiality. That way we wouldn't be, representing ourselves, we'd be Which Magazine, right? People have no systemic bias, and therefore their opinion in aggregate is always going to be more plausible than the opinion of someone who's trying to sell you the thing they're talking about. Hence, that popular opinion can decimate sales in places like technology goods at the moment, but larger things in later points.
Are there any questions from the audience? None of you? Okay.
Do you think that in the future the internet can become saturated with this kind of social media and like display advertising and whatnot, just like print has? And if so, do you think we'll see more of a rise in an integrated campaign between print and digital, or will something new come up? Or what are your thoughts on that subject?
I think humans have the ability to focus on what they want to focus on and kind of just to let everything fall to the wayside. So I think you already have that with display advertising. I mean, think about the last display ad that you remember right now. I imagine that you probably had a difficult time remembering that display ad. And that's people who are, looking for it and want to see what kind of creative is going on the internet. You focus on the content on the page that you want to. So I think people, as humans, and now especially in a hyper-accelerated media landscape, have the ability to filter that out really easily. So I think it's combining and giving people the ads that mean something to them. if I'm in the market for something because you've tracked, my behavioral patterns, then I have a lot more interest in potentially looking at that ad than I would.
There is a signal to noise ratio problem. Because I like messing around with social media, I will follow lots of people on Twitter and then realize that the Twitter stream that I'm following doesn't have anybody I know in it anymore, and so it's kind of have to work out what it's for.
Yep.
I think there's going to happen. There's too much content. There is a massive surfeit of content in the world, particularly online. So search has to sophisticate itself and find a way to navigate data in more socially interesting ways. So by logging into what my friends do, and Amazon becomes very, very irrelevant in terms of giving me information. And to your point, there's that old adage in advertising: any sufficiently relevant piece of advertising is indistinguishable from news.
Mm-hmm.
When Apple launches an iPhone, I don't need the ad to tell me about it because I've subscribed to Apple to tell me about their new iPhone because I'm excited about their products and it's news. And eventually that's what it's going to have to be to get through the sort of cognitive and technological filters we'll put up around ourselves. It'll have to be opt-in. We'll give you permission to communicate with us, or vice versa.
Any other questions?
There's no internet industry. I guess there maybe is, to some extent, but there's this topic trends across all different careers and all different fields. What are the new opportunities or jobs that you see being created in anything from finance to any business, any field? How is our generation going to be impacted, no matter what our interests are, by interactive media?
So I'll say my favorite job, and I don't know how many people actually hire for this, is a community manager or community organizer. And the reason that I think that's interesting is the organizations that I think are doing a lot of the right things have an enormous amount of contact with people outside the organization, not just to sell them stuff, right? So they want ideas from them, they want to help get the word out, they want to do any number of things. But there's a very particular set of skills to actually help with that and help sort of translate, here are these people that are sort of not paid by you and not really employees, and so how do we work with them and what do they want and what can we do for them? And that's hard, but I actually think it's going to become a more and more critical role, is this point of here's the people that are paid and here are the people that are not paid, and somehow I've got to delicately manage this balance. And so I think that's a phenomenal, the funniest thing from the past election was the Republican National Convention, where Obama was accused of being a community organizer, and I'm like, that's really funny, because I actually think that's become the hardest thing to do. So that's, I think that's a critical, and it's gonna I think change. It may be a social media expert, it may be a digital anthropologist, it may be who knows, but it's basically understanding how it is that people exist and communicate online, and how organizations actually work with those people.
Sorry, I want to jump into a different thing, not about what jobs will create. But the thing that has amazed me in the last year is how much we have learned to outsource as an organization, and in a very different way from how I expected it. We don't outsource jobs, we outsource specific functions within a job. So all of our ad reporting is being done, starting in a few hours, overseas and sent back. Here are the formats, it's happening overseas and sent back. Repetitive tasks are happening. This is a lovely building, but it's a damn high rental rate. Unless what is happening in this tower is contributing excessively high value, we can't afford the excessively high New York rents to be in this building. So what we are doing is, for example, our developers are all in this building because it's extremely high value, and our content people and our developers talk to each other constantly, and we're not going to do that overseas. But running reports, running very, very sort of repetitive tasks, anything that can be defined can be done somewhere else. If it can be defined and it can be digital, it can be done somewhere else. And it's this really amazing thing to watch now. My staff is not threatened by it because they're all too damn busy. So it's great that the stuff that I don't want to do, the crap on the edge of my desk that I've needed to get done for a week, is now happening overseas and coming back to me in the exact format I wanted